Let's try to solve this math problem. The function f is defined above. If k is a positive integer, which of the following could represent the graph of y is equal to f of x in the xy plane? So y-axis is the value of this function, and we've got x plus 3 times x minus k. So what do we know from the question? K is a positive integer, so possible values for k we know could be 1, 2, 3, and so on. One thing we can look at is A and B have y as positive when x is 0, and C and D has negative y values when x is 0. So we can look at what could be the value of this function when x is 0 to figure out, to eliminate a couple of the options. So if you plug in 0 in terms of in place of x, so we would have the function 0 plus 3 times 0 minus k. So this is minus 3k, right? So we know k is positive, right? So does it matter if it's 1, 2, 3, 4? The value of this function will be negative. So if k was 1, the value would be minus 3. If k was 2, the value of this function would be minus 6. If k was 3, the value of this function, and you see the pattern where you realize that the function has a negative value when x is equal to 0. So we look at A and B, y values are positive, specifically 6. So we can eliminate options A and B. So we're left with C or D. Now we could do the exact same trick, but now this time we can plug y or the function to be 0 and see what would be the x values, what would be some of the x values. So instead of plugging x is equal to 0, what we could do is we could plug in y as 0. So when we plug in y is equal to 0, what we're really doing is, okay, we're here on this plot here, right? Y is equal to 0. So we're going to have two x values, either minus 2 plus 3 or minus 3 plus 2. And which one it is, we're going to try to find out. So if you plug in y as 0, we have something that looks like x minus k. So if you look at this function here, right, for this to be equal to 0, I can already see a possible x value that would make this expression 0. And think about this. If x was minus 3, right, this equation, well, this expression, I should say, will be 0. Minus 3 plus 3 is 0. So 0 times anything, this could be any value, 0 times anything will be 0, right? So one value of x that solves this equation or makes the y-axis 0 could be minus 3. So if you look at here, option C, the plot goes through minus 2. Option D, you see, goes through minus 3. And that's exactly what we found out. So without even actually solving this other side, we can conclude the answer should be D, right? We can go ahead and calculate actually the value of K2. For this question, we probably don't need it, but what we could have done is the following. So if we knew that K could be one of these values, right? If you go to our previous when we found what would be, when x was equal to 0, we found out that this was the expression. Now, if you look at this plot here, we said that since k could be 1, 2, 3, 4, could be any positive integer, one of the possible values that we found was -3, -6, -9, and so on and so on. Now, if you look at plot here, we actually see that the value of y is equal to -6. So this actually tells us that k has value of 2. I know it's a side note, but I'm just trying to help you understand what are some of the ways that we could think about this problem, right? Or it could be a similar problem where the question might ask, what's the value of k, right? Giving you certain plots. Thank you.